Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Jay Heaves Maddie. This is Yankee and The Brit, and we're going to finish upgrading every NFL team division by division. And our final one, NFC South, with our Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and with the team that may have got the most talented guy in the draft, even though it's at a position that not usually that highly sought after. So it made it very interesting. We'll start with Atlanta Falcons and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, of course. And Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts is an outstanding football player. The more I watch of him, the more I'm like, this guy is going to be crazy in the NFL. And almost impossible to pass up on Kyle Pitts, really. The Falcons, in my eyes, should have really been looking to trade out of that pick. And maybe someone wasn't giving them enough to actually make the move off Kyle Pitts, because this guy could be generational. This guy could be incredible. He could redefine an entire position. He's a wide receiver and a tight end. And he's not like other wide receivers and tight ends where he can't block for the run. He's also got great run blocking as well. And he's incredible. He's a guy that you can build an offense around. But the Falcons, they have an offense. But it also means they can get rid of Julio Jones's contract if they really want to, because now they've got Kyle Pitts. So I can understand why they made the pick. I would have been looking to trade out of it, but Kyle Pitts is a guy that nobody's going to be unhappy that you've drafted.
Yeah, if you weren't in love with one of the quarterbacks, I guess you have to take him. I just like you said it before I'd have tried to get back. It is so high to take a tight end, even though I know even if he becomes the greatest tight end in NFL history, I don't know how life-changing that is for the Falcons right now. It almost reminds me of Tony Gonzalez rotting away in Kansas City for years and years. It almost seems like one of those situations to me. But as for a pick, I think it was the best pick on the board. You took the best guy, best player. I gave them a B, but that's just because I think that there was guys I would have taken over who they took, but they took the same position.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I actually gave them a B minus because I just feel like they're like the Cowboys. They've got a great offense, good quarterback, really good quarterback in Matt Ryan. Let's be real and fair to the guy. Good quarterback, good wide receiver options, and a terrible defense. And they could have used the Kyle Pitts pick if they could move back. I'm saying if you're not getting at least another first round pick for Kyle Pitts, then fine. Then don't take the trade. And they pick the best player on the board. And Kyle Pitts, no doubt, will be a fantasy player's dream. Kyle Pitts and Matt Ryan are going to connect really, really well. They did try and fix their secondary with Richie Grant, but me and you both believe that Trayvon Moehrig is a better player.
Yeah, and it's not even just there. It's like you go into the third round and they take Jalen Mayfield when there was better offensive linemen available. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of where the problem with this draft. It was like we were hitting the same positions, but there's different guys.
Yeah, and the problem with the Mayfield draft is he's more of a left guard he's more of a guard than a tackle, and they're pretty good at left guard. Like they're pretty okay at guard. Like their offensive line is. And I don't know if he has
the nice quickness to be a guard too. He might. I'm not a scout, but from watching Michigan, I never looked at him and thought, oh, he might be a guard. But you know.
Yeah, and then that arm strength is, like arm length is something that they look at a lot in the NFL, and he's got quite short arms for a tackle. So maybe he's going to have to learn to play guard, or he's going to have to learn how to be a tackle with shorter arms. And you would think his upside is his physical traits, but his pro day wasn't very good, which is why he fell into the third round. Let's be real. But when you're being drafted on physical traits and you don't have a good pro day, that kind of doesn't scream out the best for me. With Richie Grant, I think Richie Grant is actually a really good player. And if it wasn't,
I think they took him way too high.
Yeah, and I think if it wasn't for the the hype around Trayvon Moehrig from a lot of people. If the hype for Trayvon Moehrig went to Richie Grant, we wouldn't be thinking that. Like, the guy's got big playability. He's got really good tackle technique. He flies to the ball when it's in the air. As soon as that ball leaves the quarterback's hands, he is going to wherever that ball is. That's where he's making a beeline straight to. I really like him. I just would have taken Trayvon Moehrig. That's like my personal scouting evaluation. But as we've said a million times, we aren't NFL scouts.
Anybody who watches this, though, our videos knows I have a lot usually to say, even about the later round guys. And with these guys, I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just I look at their draft and I'm like, right, cool. Atlanta Falcons like it. Kyle Pitts going to be a great player. That's why it's a B- for me. I don't look and say you fixed.
Get 3 starters out of this thing, maybe 4 if they're lucky. So I gave him a B because Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be transcendent, maybe not, but he's got the upside. And like I said, at worst, he ends up to a Tony Gonzalez where they just wasted him away in Kansas City. I hope that doesn't happen to the kid because I don't know if Matt Ryan's still Matt Ryan.
I don't know if Matt Ryan's still Matt Ryan after he lost that Super Bowl. That could, it genuinely looks like an issue. Like, I don't know what it is about Matt Ryan because he has the numbers. He has the experience, but I just look at him and think, you're not the same dude.
That was Kyle Shanahan's fault. Run the freaking ball, you win that game. Never throw another pass, you win that game.
Yeah, definitely. And he played incredibly well at the start of the season and then fell off a little bit. Like, Atlanta have a really talented offense. They've added to that with Matt
Ryan's still Matt Ryan this year.
Yeah, of course, and I like the fantasy implications of being able to take Kyle Pitts on an Atlanta Falcons defense, offense, especially if they get rid of Julio Jones, because I think Pitts then becomes their number 1 target. And hey, it's going to be an exciting team to watch, even if they are garbage. You know, like, exciting offense, terrible defense. They're always the most exciting games to watch. Like, I was jumping out of my bed when they didn't pick up the offside kick of the watermelon kick against the Cowboys last season. That was one of the most exciting games I've seen in a long time. And they could just be that team again where they lose, but everybody wants to watch them.
And at this point, I'll watch any football. I just need more football. So let's get back to football. That's all I watch high school games at this point. If it's on TV, I'll watch it. So
yeah, there's a reason. But basically for Atlanta, what we're saying is we like their picks, but there's a reason they're fourth in the draft. And it's not because they don't have a tight end or a wide receiver. That's right. That's all we're saying. But we really like Kyle Pitts. That's what we're saying. Well, now moving on to the Panthers, who their first pick was a shocker. For me, their first pick
I like their draft. I don't love their draft. Like,
yeah.
I gave them a B, but my whole thing is maybe we're completely wrong, and maybe like I shit on them earlier. Maybe because their coaches have just came out of college that they see something we don't, you know, but
yeah,
I like JC Horn. Don't get me wrong. I do. I think, and a lot of people had him as the number 1 corner in the draft. So depending who you are, if you had him rated that way, I didn't, but if that's how you rate him, fine. Terence Marshall Jr.,
great
good
pick.
Receiver, played alongside it. 2 complete studs in college. So this kid, I think, has all the potential in the world, and I thought it was a great pick. And then Hubbard, the running back out of Oklahoma in the 4th round, is another guy I thought was good. But again, this is another draft. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, JC Horn is not the best cornerback in
I said draft. Some people had him rated. They did. Some people did.
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably know that the Cowboys did that. And if you do have him the number 1 rated, that's totally fine. He doesn't fit the Panthers scheme at all. He's a press man coverage, and they're in the zone. Like, that's Patrick Surtain. It would be a good fit for them. And I don't believe that anybody thinks that JC Horn is miles better than Patrick Surtain. Like, if you believe that,
except the Panthers.
Yeah, but no, they can believe he's better, but like not by enough to cover the scheme. Surely, I don't get it. He's been told, we've seen it, and a lot of people have said he's got stiff hips. and he needs to improve his off coverage play. Like it's something that
also
he needs
what
to
is
do.
going on in Carolina too. Did you see what Teddy Bridgewater just said?
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater.
That they don't even practice red zone.
That takes my Sam Darnold predictions really down the drain if they're not doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like he said they weren't doing anything situational. I'm like, what the hell are they doing in Carolina then?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like the first pick. Terence Marshall Jr., great pick. We had him in the first round. We had him as a first round wide receiver. Could easily be big man number one. Good replacement for Curtis Samuel. Only reason he slipped down the board that far is because he had an injury problem, but it doesn't sound too serious. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned Tommy Tremble. I thought he'd be really up your alley. Really big, physical, throwback tight end from Notre Dame, the offensive line university, and surely their tight ends can also play offensive line. I really like that pick in a Christian McCaffrey offense.
It's just more of like, it's not that it's against the player. It's just I look at this draft and where they drafted guys, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I think Christensen will also be good at guard. I
don't feel like they got a steal. Like, I don't feel like anywhere. Most of the teams I look at, I'm be like, oh, man, you got him way higher or way lower. So unless Terence Marshall, which we had at the end of the first round, right? Other than that, I'm like, I think you overreached for J.C. Horn. I think Terrace Marshall was a steal. I think Hubbard was probably right where he should be, but he's a really good. I just don't look at any of them and go, wow, they got a steal in the 5th round, or wow, they got a guy in the 6th round. But again, like I said, maybe they know something we don't, but I feel like
maybe they'll like Pete Carroll. You know, good players, not jump off those screen players, but they have some serious. They did have some needs going into this draft.
They just didn't wow me.
Yeah, I've gone for a C+ just because the JC Horn pick to me makes absolutely no sense. You could have had Patrick Surtain and you who seems to fit your scheme better, and you picked JC Horn, which I thought was strange, but hey, that's why we're sat here. We say it again. That's why we're sat here. We're not NFL scouts. The New Orleans Saints, I have not been kind to their draft either.
Okay, well, I have this feeling that very soon they're going back to bags on their head and calling themselves the Aints.
Yeah, Peyton Turner, they could have gone in the 2nd round. Awesome physical traits. 6'6", 270. Incredible physical traits, actually. Really, really good player, but he's a really risky pick, but he pays off big time. But my issue with it is you have so many holes because of your cap situation, and it's not on the defensive line. That is not where your holes are. So you've gone and picked defensive line, which I thought was strange.
Okay, me and you have talked about this, and maybe Jameis will be the answer. You better be sold on Jameis if Ian Book is your backup plan, because nobody believes Taysom Hill is truly the backup plan, do they? Like, I mean, he's really just their gadget, scheming, backup quarterback. I don't think they ever really considered him for the starting position. So you better be leaving Jameis, because I don't know what you're doing. Otherwise, Ian Book's your guy.
I've said they've got 2 backup quarterbacks already. So why are they adding a 3rd backup quarterback? They've got.
But I don't know.
Like I think that's strange. Jameis Winston, I actually do think is a very talented quarterback. I just think he's to the lower from what we've seen versus like
he got rid of the interceptions. He's a top quarterback. So can he get him to get rid of the interceptions?
Yeah, he leaves and Tampa Bay win the Super Bowl though. That's where.
Right, but he threw.
I know it's with Brady and a few other players.
Picks, right, 5,000 yards.
Exactly. That's backup quarterback.
Take those picks down to 10, and he's a top quarterback. So I don't know.
Yeah, which you could do. We'll see. Like we'll see how good Jameis Winston is.
You wear glasses, but you wear glasses. You think LASIK can have that much to do with it?
I play rugby without my glasses, but when I do catching drills with them on, I am a lot better. But
see, maybe the LASIK helps. Yeah,
I actually do think but he would have had that already. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have paid for that already if that was a problem.
But he got it.
They would have
he
looked into
Tampa.
that.
He got
but they would have looked into that and said, "Hey, your eyesight isn't very good. Have some laser eye surgery," and paid for it. to get
Yeah, I don't know.
first round pick.
You know how much dumb shit slips through the cracks in those teams that shouldn't, though.
Yeah,
and
I do get what you
and
mean.
when you don't, Jason Lights turned it around, but when that team, it was a little shaky for a while too, just on how it was being run. Maybe that just slipped through, or maybe they thought, oh, Jameis has got contacts, he's fine. I don't know. I don't know enough about eyes.
Yeah, exactly. I think the laser eye surgery will really make a difference if that was a problem. But I find it hard to believe that it was that big a problem and nobody picked up on it and nobody was willing to pay for their first round quarterback to get a laser eye surgery. Ian Book is a winner. Like, I guess that's a good trait. Like, isn't he the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history or something like that? Like, at least the dude's a winner, I guess. Not the most physically gifted.
Maybe my problem is everybody over here except Notre Dame fans hate Notre Dame because they try to play the college system by not being in a conference, not having a, and they play, and then they get all their own TV deals, and and then me as a Big Ten fan, a couple of years ago, they wanted to be part of the Big Ten, and I was like, hell no, like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I like Notre Dame in the fact that they're seen as more academic. Like, all their players have to have an even higher grade point average than normal. So, like, the players that come out of Notre Dame, you're like, you're an intelligent guy. You know what you're doing.
Except Manti Te'o.
Yeah. Well, we tried. But anyway, he tried to be like, Book will be good he'll be a good quarterback to have in the room. But why are you drafting a good quarterback to have in the room when you have so many other issues? And you could just get Drew Brees to come back.
Shot at Manti Te'o like 6 years later, too, or whatever it's been. But
it's not like you to be vindictive towards a team like Notre Dame, man. I gave them a C- because at least they got a depot. Like, they did actually draft a cornerback eventually, which is what they needed.
Yeah, this is one of my worst draft grades.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not the players, it's the needs again. It's strange. And
I've said this about Sean Payton the last couple of years. Like, I just don't like his drafts.
Yeah, and Pete Werner is a good linebacker. Did they need a linebacker? No, not really. And there were better linebackers on the board, in my opinion, once again. Chaz Surratt and Jibril Cox, but Nick Bolton took 2 picks before, so they were probably very, very upset about that if they were going to draft linebacker. But he can make huge hits, but struggles a bit athletically. And yeah, strange draft. Not to take a cornerback like till the 3rd round was very strange to me. Shall we move on to the Super Bowl champs?
Yep, and I'm just going to start and say, no matter what they did, they got an A from me because they brought back all 22 starters, which means everything on this board is not a need. Nothing on this board is an absolute need.
Yeah.
So they got to just go and do what they wanted to do. Joe Tryon, we've talked about this. I think because he's going to be behind White and those guys, I think he's going to have time to develop. I think he's going to be really good, and we'll see him flying around the field. Wasn't the biggest fan of Kyle Trask, but I put him in the mold of Mac Jones. Like, not the most athletic, but he's more athletic than people actually give him credit for.
Yeah, he has athletic ability. He's not terrible.
I was really glad when they grabbed him instead of Kyle Mond. So, and then I just think that they went and said, we're going to need a guard at some point. Let's draft a guard and develop them. We're going to need receivers because they're not going to keep AB for 5 years. They're not going to be able to keep everybody they have. So, okay, let's see if we can get a wide receiver developed with these guys. Oh, we could use a couple linebackers in the future because you could always keep up to 6 on your team. Oh, we like this corner. Let's just grab him. You know what I mean? I can keep going, but I think it was a good draft because they didn't have a need.
Yeah, I'm grading on just the draft in general. And the way that I look at this draft is they haven't actually got any players that make them better. But the reason that they don't have any players that make them better is because they're the Super Bowl champs and they managed to keep everybody in the Super Bowl.
They didn't get any starting players that make them better because they got depth players that'll make them better.
Yeah, exactly. So I've written they have interesting continuity players to so they can build on the dynasty after Brady. So I really like the Kyle Trask pick. I think that actually might be one of my favorite picks that they went through. The Kyle Trask pick, he's a really good fit. He started a run on quarterbacks that all seem to go to the right fit for them. Like
I had
Kellen
them
was,
all switched, though. I had Kyle Trask behind Mond and Davis, but that's fine.
yeah, but like I had Mond at the top, then Davis, then Trask. But if you take it in terms of best fit, then Tampa's the best fit in terms of system for Kyle Trask. Kellen Mond,
And he
Vikings
gets to
is
sit
a
for
really
2
good
or 3
fit.
years, like Kellen
Yeah, exactly.
Mond. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gets to learn behind the. As much as I dislike saying it, after he won the Super Bowl at Tampa Bay, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time in terms of
his brain too. That's what
play.
makes him great. So he's a great guy. It's not like he's a complete talent guy and he can't teach you. What Brady does is actually teachable. Where Patrick Mahomes can't teach you to be Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and what people have said, what people are saying is like, oh, is this not just like Jimmy Garoppolo, where he was meant to teach up Jimmy Garoppolo? He's meant to do all of this stuff, and it's like Tom Brady's at a much different point in his career now.
Oh yeah, Tom Brady already called him.
Yeah, it's like Tom Brady can definitely see the end. Like, as much as he's saying, I could play till I'm 45, I could play for however long, he can still see the end now. At that point, he was like, I've still got 10, 15 years in me. So why are you drafting my replacement now? Whereas now that he can see why they've done it. It's within a period of, let this guy sit for this long. Kyle Trask has proved he can throw to weapons, and Tampa Bay have weapons. Like, so he's also a really good backup if Tom Brady misses a game, misses a game or two, which would be weird for Tom to miss a game or two. But if he does, then he just folds straight into that. He's learning from the best. He's going to be around weapons, and he throws a beautiful ball. Kyle Trask throws an absolute bullet of a ball. Great pick. Really like it. Kyle Trask, top quality backup, top quality career backup.
He reminds me a lot of, like I said, Mac Jones, but I don't want to say that he'll be there. But the type of player is he's a Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan type of guy. He's not going to break you a bunch of runs, but he's athletic enough to move around a little. And if you build an offensive line around that guy, in a few years, and Brady teaches him, who knows? Maybe you do have a handoff like Aaron Rodgers from Brett Favre, or
exactly.
Young to.
Yeah, and he's in a really good spot. And even if he's not that guy, he's a top quality backup. Like, let's tell Kyle Trask he throws a beautiful ball, clearly has a good footballing brain, is going to learn from the best. So,
and if he's not that guy, you'll know before Brady leaves in 3 years, right?
Yeah, and he's almost worst case scenario is kind of like a Mason Rudolph, like top quality backup play, where it's like you've got the 35th best quarterback in the NFL, like that kind of level of player. And
I got Brady playing 3 more years, so they'll know by then. So if he's not the guy, you draft a new one.
And then, exactly. And then Joe Trion is seems like a bit of a reach to everybody else, but with this defensive line class, you never know. Like, it seems like the other positions, everybody kind of went to board a bit. Like, they were wrong on Patrick Surtain and JC Horn being the other way around, but not by a lot. But then Joe Trion wasn't really spoken about at all. And he, for me, he looks like a really, really talented player, but could do with learning the game. And you sat behind Jason Pierre-Paul, who's a freaky athlete who can teach you how to play. Jr. He is. That's exactly who he is. Yeah. He's Jason Pierre-Paul Jr. with all of his fingers. So that's where he's at. And his highlight tape is just as good as all the guys that are drafted around him. So people had Azeez Ojulari above him, but when you look at the tape, it's very similar. And I think
Jason Pierre-Paul's contract's up after this year, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, exactly. They have plenty. He's sat in a really good position.
They plan on winning 2, 3, or 4 with Brady before this is over in their heads. Yeah.
He's another guy that's sat in a really good position, but doesn't make them better. But does he just not make them better because of the team that they have in front of him, which is totally fine, which is why I give them a B. And Jalen Darden is one that I found a little strange, because is he not just Scotty Miller? And then is Scotty Miller not just Antonio Brown, like a poor man's Antonio Brown? So you've got 2 of those type of receivers already in front of him.
But you can't give Brady too many weapons, right? So let's just bring him in and develop him. And then if he is Miller, then you don't have to pay Scotty Miller the big money when his time comes too.
That's true.
You just let him walk. That's true. And so you're taking care of cap problems moving forward, because nobody thought they'd get all these guys back, you and I included, and they figured it out. So it's going to cause a little bit of cap issue moving forward. So maybe this is them planning their cap future too. Yeah,
they're setting up to build. They're setting up to build a dynasty, which is weird to say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I always had them as more of a short-term kind of team, but they're setting up to build a dynasty, and it's exciting down in Tampa. So I've given them.
Nobody says dynasty better than a Brit.
Dynasty. Is that not? So their off season A+++++, like absolutely outstanding. Draft B- because they didn't technically get any better, but they've also drafted in positions where it makes sense to draft the players that they did. So really, really good draft for the position that they're in. But if other teams did this draft, we'd be pissed.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because they're like we said, they're in this weird position where they can build for their future, which a lot of teams don't always have that. And like we said, you don't see a Super Bowl team bring back all 22 starters. And that's because of Tom Brady, by the way, just so people know. It ain't
that's why
Tampa,
he's the GOAT.
It ain't Light. It ain't AB, or it ain't BA as much as I love Bruce Arians. Tom Brady's the reason that all that got done, because these guys want another ring and they love Tom.
Yeah, and at least they have, like, the only reason it could be Tampa is because of the tax situation in Florida. That's the other, like, it works in Tampa extra well because of the tax situation. That's why it works in Tampa better than it does in New England, because in New England there's also higher taxes, and then in Tampa,
everybody knows Bill Belichick's a dick. Now he may be the best coach, but he's a dick. So you have
to have a lot of fun.
I mean, Kyle Long, or not whatever Long brother played for the Patriots. When he left after the Super Bowl, he said it was great to win a ring, but I wanted to have fun. And then he went to the Eagles and won another ring. But it was just like he didn't want that. He didn't have any problem with Bill, but he didn't want that type of regimen. He wanted to have more fun at the end of his career. So, like, they went for Brady, though. You know what I mean? I think Brady.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely went for Brady. It's even more helpful to have Brady in Tampa. And me and my dad were actually talking about this before. It's really difficult to like Tom Brady because he's so incredibly successful, but seeing him drunk, throwing the Lombardi trophy from boat to boat, like, that makes him much more likable and makes him much more human. I like Tampa Tom. I don't like New England Tom. Like, that's where I'm at with it.
Tom, just because I've always been a fan of greatness. So, like,
yeah, of course.
I'm always like, every Super Bowl he was in, I was like, get you another one, Tom. Get you another one.
Yeah, and it's like the biggest indictment of the change in Tom is his Twitter post about playing the Dallas Cowboys first up, where he says he put, really excited for the 9th of September. We're about to play America's team in quotation marks. And then with a sarcastic, like a person looking sarcastic at the America's team thing. Well, that was his Twitter post. And I was like, this is a new Tom Brady, man.
Before we end this, I have to ask you, do you know where America's team came from?
You're gonna have to tell
It was
me.
Originally offered to the Pittsburgh Steelers by the NFL back in the day, and the Pittsburgh owner said, no, we're Pittsburgh's team. And the Cowboys, being the marketing monsters and geniuses they are, was like, we got this. And there comes America's team. But I think it's a rough day for your guys Cowboys, because it's always rough to beat a team who raises the banner and gets their rings right before they come to play.
Yeah, but if there's a time you want to play Tampa, it's when they could be having a Super Bowl hangover, I guess. And when our offensive line might be healthy for the first half an hour of the first week, that could be great,
McCarthy will fuck that up in preseason, don't worry.
Absolutely no problem, don't you worry. We'll talk about NFL scheduling at some point down the line, guys. So if you're interested in that, then come check out the Yankee and the Brit. I nearly said Travel Story Society there. That's something entirely different. The Yankee and the Brit, go check us out on YouTube, is where we really would like to see some growth. That would be fantastic. And our Facebook groups are always great to follow as well. Jason puts on great memes, and I just called him by his full name there for the first time ever.
That's all right. Half my family calls me Jay, half of them calls me Jason, and that's hence the Jason J. So that's where that all comes from. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Check out other videos to come. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.